Ah, the highly talented and attractive Sagittarius. Good to see you. Come on in. You know, I was just doing some spiritual work and hence the candles and what have you. And it's got me in the mood to do your Sagittarius October reading, which will employ the tarot, astrology, numerology, probably some mystical and esoteric knowledge, and who knows what else. Let's see what there is in store for you, shall we? Hi, thank you very much for your great comments, by the way. I do appreciate it, particularly those of you leaving the comments from North America and Canada, from the United Kingdom, from India. Great to see you. Great to see you again. And from the Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, France, even Italy. Thanks for that. And Brazil, Germany, other places as well, and I'll get to them next time because we have a reading to do. So let's get some spiritual energy going, shall we? Okay, that will do the trick. And let's see what there is in store for you now. And you, who's got the Jupiter planet, your planet in your sign for a few more months yet. The Five of Cups. There is the Knight of Wands. There is the Eight of Wands. It's a real Sagittarius sort of energy I'm getting from that Eight of Wands. Sagittarius energy I'm getting. There's the Magician. And what is there finally for you? Let's have a look. What's this one? The Falling Tower. Excellent. I love that card, and it's going to be great for you. I might even read that first. It depends. We'll have to have a look in just a second. So come around, sit down next to me. I'll put a lamp over this card so that the artwork will come to life, and I'll do the reading for you. Okay, Sagittarius, here are your cards. Now just let me reach behind and get my pen because I might point out a couple of things here. Where will I start? Look, I'm going to start here because this is something that is saying that you should not be surprised if you have emotions that make you feel, other than that, top notch, if you like. This is the Five of Cups. Let's have a look at the scenery in the cups. It's quite straightforward. It looks like an old man, a patriarch perhaps of the family, on his deathbed, dictating his last will and testament to a scribe or attorney who is with a quill writing down that those last words, and these presumably are family members, only one of whom is really crying into the cup, and the others all standing around expectantly, and one here with a child that's knocked over the cup. Interestingly here, this is a Kabbalistic symbol which represents the Kabbalistic tree of life and the various paths that run between it. I won't go into that now because it'll take us really a couple of hours, but it's a fascinating mystical area. Another time. First of all, there's some sort of a loss of pleasure that's going to be occurring in relation to you momentarily, I think. Although I've noticed that there is in the diametrically opposed side here quite a significant weeding of the mental garden or reviewing of your priorities that's going to be going on, and this may be as a result of some loss of pleasure which is going to prompt this thing to happen. And the astrology of this card is, for me, Mars ruling the first decan of Scorpio, the 23rd of October to the 2nd of November. Now, we would expect a positive aspect to the card because in classical astrology, Mars rules Scorpio. But it's taking place using this tree of life, in a Sephira here, as they call it, which is associated with the number 5, and which for me, mystically, is associated with the planet of Mars. And so we have Mars ruling Scorpio, for me, the astrology of the card, and a double dose of Mars coming into the equation as a result of the number 5. So this adds extra fire, really. So the energy has so much heat applied to it, that applied to the card, to the sign of Scorpio, that it evaporates the waters of Scorpio, if you like. I think that what we can say is that, well, perhaps there might be something where you feel as if you've had some sort of a loss or a bittersweet moment. Not regret, I don't think, but sort of whimsical view of something that's going on. Maybe something hasn't worked out exactly as you would have hoped or expected, but what this card is saying, and these other cards around here are definitely reinforcing, in fact they're going further, as I'll get to in just a moment. This card is saying don't wallow around in self-pity and regret, because new and better experiences are in store. Maybe you kind of become a little bit disillusioned with your life. Or maybe even disillusioned is probably too strong a word. Maybe you might be disappointed, I suppose, by somebody else's actions. And if that's the case, Sagittarius, move on. Move on. You can't run other people's lives for them, and you're not responsible for them. All you can do is just take people as you find them and don't let them affect you, you know. I think that the feelings that arise from the energy of this card can sometimes surface such that it gives rise to a sort of a fear of taking on another risk, perhaps, or about making an effort in the future. Could that be you? I mean, you're normally so optimistic, so go ahead, so focused and well, imperturbable, whatever the word is. You'll have to forgive me. And I certainly hope that you're not hiding away in some place where you can't be disappointed again. Look, I'll tell you something interesting about this. I'm getting some energy through here now, and it's related to a center of consciousness, which is, I call Vavalaya, one of the 72 names of God, and that substitutes for the word Lord. In a book of the Old Testament or Hebrew Bible called Psalms, and I'm pretty sure it's Psalm 88 verse 14, which says, "As for me, I cry out to you, O Lord, each morning my prayer greets you." Now, meditating on that verse unleashes the power of the mind over matter, soul over the ego, and the spiritual over the physical. Your goal, though, is not to renounce the physical world, but to eliminate its control over you, to become the true captain of your fate. Everything becomes possible. And if that energy should reside anywhere, it finds its most fertile ground in you, Sagittarius. That is the case. I am going to deal with this other card now, because this is talking about something that maybe needs to be done. And I'm going to see what that is that needs to be done. The question is, when does it need to be done? This is the falling tower. I have the feeling that this is an energy which has been around you really for some time. I feel that you've been going through some sort of transformative process for, a few months now, really. And I see this as a thing which is continuing. It is, however, coming to an end, and it's on its way out, because it is down here in this section, and it's about to go. But let's have a quick look at it for the sake of the completeness, because it did show up in the reading, and it's probably to do with this card that we just looked at. Well, here we have the falling tower. Now, The first thing that I note is that this tower is made up of 7 cubical stories made of stone. There is a solar blast which has attacked the tower, and poking from the top of the tower is an obelisk. This tower is built on... This tower actually reminds one of the Tower of Babel, doesn't it, in the ancient mythology. The tower is built on sand. Everything moves. Everything moves. You know, there is a time, I can't think who it is that does it, but if you can imagine holding sand in your hand and then turning it this way and letting it fall from your hand, there was a Latin phrase that applied to that. It was sic transit gloria mundi, so passes the glory of the world. And everything that's built, it seems impenetrable, is actually built on sand. What's also quite interesting about the imagery on here is that there is a figure, probably a king, although it can quite easily substitute as a queen, in my opinion. There is a figure down here who's been clonked on the head by a brick, and there's a couple of people hiding underneath here, along with this figure that's falling, or another view, actually escaping, I think. And I think the escape aspect is really more pertinent to you. There are other things here. There's like airplanes and sets of traffic lights. There's what looks like a bomb, spaceships, all sorts of things that the artist has gone crazy with. But the main point about this is what it is really for me. Again, you know how you had Mars in this planet here, having such a card here, rather, having such an important impact. Well, Mars is also here. Mars this time as the warrior planet in full attack mode as it comes in to dismantle this tower. I think what this is really talking about is this is the restorer, the healer, the renovator, and it signifies someone to me who has strong healing gifts and an unusual capacity for regeneration and restoration. And I think that certainly is you. I think that you have great strength in the area of health, mental, emotional, and physical. And I think that you'll find during this period a deep need to constantly eliminate what is unnatural or false and not true to yourself. You will be entirely ethical, truthful, and a person of great character. Well, particularly, I mean, you always are, but I think that will be particularly called on in this month, and you will be successful as a result of it. People will look to you and they will be impressed. People will look to you and they'll say, hey, this is a natural-born leader that's here. You'll have good analytical ability, and you will be able to get to the heart of the matter. Look, I think that I could go on and on about this card because it's incredibly complex and dense, and a lot of it is to do with spirituality. And on another occasion, I will, with you, go into it in more depth. There are other cards, I think, here which are more important for you, this reading. But this is saying, I think, that really it's almost as if the divine spirit is coming through into your psyche and burning out anything that is false and not part of your true will and your true purpose in life. And I think that this is one of the things that you may have been maybe disappointed about or had a little bit of a tear about is something that you'll just say, do you know what? I'm bouncing back, I'm getting on with things, and it's not really part of who I am, so good riddance and goodbye and good luck. Ah, yes. Remember, though, that with the destruction of the old, the former, comes room for the new to grow, and rather than the sun using its power to break into your ego, yourself, The sun instead will be focused upon the fertile lands that are you, the soul, the body, the mind, and the heart of Sagittarius. I will have a look at this card here. Now, the Eight of Wands. The reason being is that I think it's got a lot to do with you. Why do I say that? Well, I'm just looking at the imagery to start with. And the imagery is, well, there are eight clubs, I suppose, sticking up out of the ground. That's quite straightforward. In the bottom right-hand corner, there is, well, a young man, although the gay and lesbian community can apply this imagery in a way which is consistent with their values and interests. There is, in this case, a young man approaching a young woman who seems rather coy and reticent. But nevertheless, it seems he persists. Further up the path, we find the same couple fighting and at each other's throats. And then at the top of the card, we see two children dressed in the same way as they are. Now, the eight I love because it is about decision. It is about power. It is about balance. And it is particularly about creating things into form, making things happen mystically. And what I will say that there is associated for me mystically with this eight, the planet of Mercury. Now, in the card itself, I actually see Mercury ruling the first decan of Sagittarius at 23rd of November to the 2nd of December. I call this card the Lord of Swiftness. Now, Mercury in Sagittarius is the astrology of the card. I also see Mercury, as I say, associated with this number 8. And Mercury is the planet of communication. And you, Sagittarius, have the swiftness of the arrow. And this produces in you, I think, something of a restless intellect. Something of a restless intellect. I think that, in a nutshell, you will be overcoming obstacles. Events are going to be moving fast. Blockages are going to be removed. Opportunities will be arriving quickly. There will be the manifestation of results because they are imminent, in my opinion, as far as it relates to you. This really is a short, and this is Wands. It's about fire. It's about short-acting fire, I think, almost really like electricity. It's like that burning, concentrated, massive voltage that goes through there. It's a strike while the iron is hot card, and I think it probably relates to what's been going on with this card and this card here. It seems to me that you're making some decisions now which are bringing your life back and forth. You're getting more of an idea about what it is that you're going to be doing, and they're good ideas. Because with this card here, in this position, with these cards around it, you can transform any situation, problem, or obstacle by taking swift action with direct communication to resolve it. And I think it highlights the need for clear communication to manifest the things you want in your lives. The card, I think, is really talking about refinement of energy, refinement of that fire in the Suit of Wands into like an electrical force. So you need to be refined, you need to be clear with others, and manifest things, create things, make things happen for the highest good. I think you can expect to be busy, as this card has a lot of energy which is propelling you forward. I think you might completely and quickly complete projects that are underway. I will say this, though, and this is something which can sometimes affect you. I'm getting the feeling, and this is an energy that's coming up here, is that I'm being told that you need to direct where you put your energy. You need to focus your energy. And if you focus your energy, then things can only turn out for the better. Don't scattergun it and waste it. Here we have this card here, the Magician. Now, this Magician is a great looking card. Well, a young man dressed in red with an extremely large hat. This hat signifies the triumph of the mind and of intellect. So that razor-sharp mind of yours is going to have its work to do this month, and it will be used to good effect. This magician is on a three-legged table which is standing up. Now, there's a sign of a magician, isn't it? Because a three-legged table would generally never stand, and yet he has it doing so. Note that he has before him the symbols of the suits of tarot. Here is a sword lying on the table, some coins. Here is a cup, and here is a wand that he's holding. They're the four suits. This flower here is beautiful and growing, this tulip. Now, what do you make of this? Well, this is the ground that he's standing on. And it's an unusual looking ground, isn't it? In fact, if you were to really look at it, and I'm looking at it from an esoteric point of view, I would say that is a big stretch of crocodile skin. And you might say, well, why do you say crocodile skin? And I'll tell you. The ancient mystics, the ancient priests and priestesses looked upon the crocodile as an animal that could create from nothing, because whenever they got hold of a crocodile, they could never tell what the sex of the crocodile was, even when it was cut up. They knew, however, that the crocodile laid eggs, even though they didn't know whether it was a male or a female. So they assumed that the crocodile created from nothing, because they never saw crocodiles mating. This is the magician in you, standing on control and on your footing on the crocodile's skin, or for me, mystically saying that you can create. You can create from nothing. What you put your mind to, you are going to achieve this month. And what else can we say about him? Well, the Magus of Power is what I call him. The Magus of Power, he represents infinity, endlessness. I've just got these words coming through at the moment for some reason. What word compares to your unending universe of love? Oh, plant your word in the chalice of my heart, and I will bear you children that shall walk the pathways of the stars, and shall know the Father that begat them. Yeah. I think this is talking about action, about power, about manifestation of ideas and desires. And you have plenty of desires, don't you? Willpower. I think you might be something of a smooth talker during this month. You'll have what they call the gift of the gab. And there is a great energy around here which relates to self-employment. That is, of self-sufficiency and of getting things done. I really think that if I had any thoughts in mind during this period, it is this, that I create magic when I use my inherent gifts and talents. I honor the resources of skilled communications which are within me. Visualize your ideal area of activity and describe it, and understand that the full expression of your creative potential will fill you and make you happy and satisfied. Well, finally, let's have a look at this fellow here, the Knight of Cups. No, he's not the Knight of Cups, he's the Knight of Wands. But why don't you put your glasses on, Nigel, and see if you can actually act like a professional. I sit here with my hands in my head, you see, while I sort of think these things through. Now, here is the Knight of Wands. Now, the first thing I'll say about the Knight of Wands is that esoterically, knights are represented by air, and wands, of course, are fire. So he is the airy part of fire. He is, I call him, the prince of the chariot of fire, and fire and air get on famously together and build each other up. Here we have, let's look at the depiction of him. Well, what would you call this guy? I don't think we can I can't put a time frame on the figure, but if I were to do so, it's not part of a Renaissance period, but he's probably a Hun from 1,000 years earlier, from around about 500 or 600 AD, one of an Asiatic warrior, probably a Hun. They were the nomadic and conquering tribes that were around Central Asia and made their way into Eastern Europe. His horse is running across or walking across the top of a wall, and the Hun is viewing, well, a throng of what can only, I think, be described as refugees, because they're fleeing from a town which appears to first have been built from masonry, but then in wood, which is a fire, which is leading to the sky to be this crimson red. Of course, he's holding his club as the wand, and this horse has a rampant lion on top of his head. Well, there's a very strong Leo influence, is what I'm getting around this. One of your sister signs. Very strong Leo influence. Now, these court cards relate to both males and females, but what I'm seeing here is a young man who is swift and strong, impulsive, violent, but nevertheless, I think, quite just and noble, generous, with a sense of humor, I have to say. I think what's important for him is that he stands for honesty and integrity and a sense of morality. I think that the people who are going to be important to you during this period are Leo, because there is a strong Leo influence in this, I'm getting. And I think Cancer, funnily enough. Well, there could well be another fire sign, of course. But I think that, yes, he does have a strong sense of morality, and that is something that you will have also during the period. But this has come up before from this magician who was saying that this was going to be the case with you. I think that this card can really represent a turning point, and I'm looking at its position here. And it's on top of, let me just pull this out so we can see where it is. Make it a bit easier for you. How's that? Where this card is positioned, which is in this top corner on this line, and with this Eight of Wands, swiftness, the Lord of Swiftness, just here, and sitting on top of the tower. See, this is also pushing away this tower energy. But with that card there and him in that position, it represents a turning point where I think what's the case is that you may have thought that things haven't been going all that well. You've been going through a bit of a tough time, I think. Well, then this is a turning point for you. And you need to use his energy and enthusiasm to move on to better things using the same confidence that he has. And this is what this was talking about. That's what that is talking about. And this is saying, well, don't wallow around in any regret or pity about anything. Move on, because you have so much to give. And you do. You give so much. I think what it's also the case is that he really does remind you, I think, to engage in life and to be ready to tackle any challenges that come your way, as you will eventually overcome them. All right? You do have victory. Sometimes there is a cost to victory. You understand that. The battles have been hard fought, and you've gained a lot of knowledge and experience along the way. And but that's to your benefit. It's to your experience and benefit. This card is actually telling you, and it's giving you the green light to have a lust for life, to be generous, loyal, and maintain your sense of humor, and you will overcome everything, and you will have great success. That's the way it is for you this month. Well, there we are. There it is. The month of October for you. I really hope you enjoyed that reading as much as I enjoyed giving it to you. I think it's going to be a fantastic month and you've got great things in store for you, so well done. All I can say is this, is that you've been absolutely brilliant. You've been fantastic, as you always are, and really the only thing that remains for me to say is this, that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. Until then, bye for now.